Hey guys, so a couple big things to talk about. The first is that Luffy's finally awake, and I think it goes without saying that the entire time that Luffy had been unconscious, his basically his hockey was already was not only being like was not only replenishing, but I think it was also growing stronger within him. But the big question is just how much stronger is Luffy's hockey now, or even how much more control does he have over it? Because when in the pretty much like in the back half of Luffy's fight with Kaido in like the first round or whatever you want to call it, Luffy was wailing on Kaido pretty heavily, but with that massive burst of power he was using. But at the same time, that pretty much massive burst of power he had unleashed on Kaido was, while definitely effective, was also uncontrolled. So now that he's woken up, does he have enough control to actually land a finishing blow on Kaido? I mean, and I guess if the anime teasing us in the over the top opening can be believed, then the obvious answer is yes. Like Luffy at this point, I think he pretty much he's pretty much returned with a pretty much greater amount of control over the power of Row and hockey that he has. But is but the big question. So yes, I think he does have what it takes to deliver that finishing blow now. But that also creates a bigger question of is it going to play out exactly as the anime depicted it in the over the top opening, or is it going to throw in an extra element he hasn't shown us yet? Because it's Oda. The man's like a magician. He reveals one trick only to give us something more impressive. And considering and pretty much considering when you kind of throw in the reveal and consider the whole thing with Sun God Nika from last chapter, I wouldn't be surprised if Oda plays up that element in terms whatever technique or transformation Luffy will use when he confronts Kaido again. But even then, that like it's one of those things where we're pretty much despite everything, and despite like Luffy's big upgrade here, I still Luffy's possible big upgrade here. I still believe this whole affair with Kaido is still going to end in much more of a bittersweet way than we think. Like at this point, I think Luffy has a good chance at defeating Kaido, as especially with the possibility of his hockey growing stronger. But on the other hand, something something just again keeps nagging at me, saying even if they defeat Kaido, this whole thing is still going to end in some bittersweet way. Like even out or and pretty much maybe that bittersweet way is has already actually already happened because of what happened to Kinemon. But yeah, I don't know. Like something bad is still going to be thrown in the mix here. It's already been to me it's already been established that yeah, when you face the Emperor, even if you defeat them, that there's still going to be something you end up going to lose in the end, I think. And that still feels very much the case here. Now, speaking of confronting Kaido, though, the chapter ends with the reveal that Yamato has eaten a devil fruit. And honestly, I'm a bit of at a loss as to what to make of this one. Not just on the direction the story is going with from here, but also just Yamato's appearance. I mean, on one hand, with this reveal of Yamato's devil fruit, it does add a lot more to the context as to why Kaido wanted to kill Yamato in the first place, because Kaido just did not want Yamato to have that fruit like at all. Um, but now the even bigger question pops up as to why this devil fruit is so important to Kaido, and why he never wanted Yamato to eat it in the first place. And the only thing I can imagine right now is that whatever her power it is it is like the gum gum fruit in the sense where it shares a connection to Nika. Although I don't know how right of an assumption that is, because just by me saying that, it's basically going into this whole conversation and whole like just crazy theory, like theory thing I have right now about about the devil fruit origins and the idea that if the gum fruit is the origin of fruit for the paramecia type, then whatever power Yamato has is the origin of the zone type. But again, that's me that's me going into crazy theorist territory, and I'm not even sure how much of that I even believe myself, because I don't know how you, even though you could connect this pretty easily back to like the sun god Nika. I don't know how you'd go about connecting that back to the One Piece itself. Like everything Kaido has done right now has been for the sole purpose of getting the One Piece, and I don't know how like Yamato's Devil Fruit is like connects back to that. So again, it's what I just mentioned here is the only thing is the only crazy ass theory I have right now in terms of this power. But it's like I don't know how much of that I even believe myself. I believe that myself until we just get an actual reveal of pretty much the next chapter, which is coming out in the next 2 weeks, which and and now appearance wise of Yamato's Devil Fruit, that's actually the more hilarious thing, because truthfully I couldn't even tell you what animal or myth Oda has drawn from with this reveal, but no joke, the closest one I can imagine is the jackalope. Again, not even joking. Like if you really look at the horns and the ears, they do look like the horns themselves that are fruiting out of Yamato are very antelope or very deer-like, and the ears do have a certain bunny quality to them. So it's like the only thing I went to is her powers like the jackalope or something like that. But even then I don't know how truthfully that is, because the one thing that does throw me off is the teeth, like the sharp teeth. I'm not sure what. I need to study up on my mythical Japanese creatures my mythical Japanese creatures, but I'm sure it's more something in Japanese lore than it is like Western lore, honestly. But yeah, jackalope was the only thing I could think of at the time. But again, this is one of those chapters where I feel genuinely frustrated with Weekly Shonen Jump going on break, because on one hand you want these authors to rest up, although with Oda I don't think the man stops even when he's on break. But on the other hand, because of how this chapter ended, there's this anticipation I feel where I need to know what happens next now, and the next 2 weeks are going to fucking kill me. Like I'm gonna be jittery as fuck, just kind of waiting around for where Oda's gonna be taking this next. And yeah, obviously, as you've noticed, I've gone this whole review without talking about Franky versus Sasuke. And that is largely because even though the fight itself was great, it also kind of quickly became the least interesting part of the chapter. The very moment we got the reveal at the end with Yamato, because that's where my brain just went into overdrive with the theories and all that shit. Although, to the fight's credit, I will say this is definitely a chapter I can admire for how distinctly creative Oda got with Sasuke's Dino form, because Sasuke's Devil Fruit was one where I was always questioning just how you could make the dynamics of the fight with a Devil Fruit like that work. But he made it work a lot better than I imagined, and the spinning blade motif I think was the best way to get the most out of Sasuke as a fighter in his Devil Fruit form. Also, to the fight's credit, there were little instances that showed, even though the fight was mostly like a pretty much bare knuckle brawl between Sasuke and Franky, I do like how there's still like little moments of showing Franky's intelligence, and that ultimately it is his skills as a shipwright and mechanic that ultimately won him the day, mainly because of how thorough Franky had been in designing the Iron Franky, and how it was able to withstand Sasuke's hardest hitting attacks. So yeah, definitely a good all on Franky there. It shows just how much of a great mechanic he is, and great mechanic and shipwright he is. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. Be sure to hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and be sure to share this video around, guys. Death Knight of Anime, signing off. Later, everyone.